Hello. Genesis chapter 26. And there was a famine in the land beside the first famine that was in the days of Abraham. And Isaac went unto Abimelech, king of the Philistines, unto Gerar. Now remember Abraham, the famine that was in the time of Abraham? The first famine. Remember there was a famine, the first one mentioned was when Abraham left Canaan and went down to Egypt. But then there was another famine. Well, it doesn't say it was a famine though, but we hear of Abraham leaving and going down to this same Abimelech. Okay. In the two cases, he claimed Sarah was his sister, and in both cases, it was discovered that Sarah was his wife, if you remember the stories clearly. Now, Abimelech has met Abraham before. At this point in time that we're reading, Abraham is assumedly dead. Okay? And we're going to see that in the reading as we go on. So at this point, Abraham is assumedly dead. Isaac has come to Abimelech, the king of the Philistines, unto Gerar. Okay? So Isaac is now dwelling in Gerar, where Abraham once dwelt. Remember? Alright. And the Lord appeared unto him, unto Isaac. The Lord appeared unto Isaac and said. Remember what we keep saying about faith comes by hearing and hearing by the word of the Lord. And we have continually mentioned that throughout, from Genesis 1 till this point, every time that the Lord spoke to anybody, whether it was by the Lord speaking himself, like in this case the Bible says he appeared unto him, whether it was in the form of an angel, a messenger, a celestial messenger, whether it was by a prophet, whether it was by a vision or a dream, till this point, these people hear clearly. It's not ambiguous what they're hearing, because you see them responding in many cases, even in dreams, they're responding, okay, to what is being said, and they go ahead and do what is being said. Okay, so it shows that it's not as if it's something that was ambiguous, confusing, uncertain. No, it was very certain. I read verse 2. And the Lord appeared unto him, Isaac, and said, Go not down into Egypt, dwell in the land which I shall tell thee of. Sojourn in this land, and I will be with thee and will bless thee. For unto thee and unto thy seed I will give all these countries, and I will perform the oath which I swear unto Abraham thy father. And I will make thy seed to multiply as the stars of heaven, and will give unto thy seed all these countries, and in thy seed shall all the nations, not just Israel, that is not even in the picture yet, but all the nations of the earth be blessed. Because that Abraham obeyed my voice, and kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws. Recap again. Remember, at this point, the law is not yet, the written law is not yet in effect. It's not that it's not in effect, but it's not yet there. Moses is not yet around. The Israelites are not yet around. Now Isaac is. At this point of reading, Jacob is. Remember, Isaac is the father of Jacob and Esau. And at this point of reading, and you're going to see it, Jacob and Esau are already here. Okay, they've already been born. You would see why I say that as we read on. Sometimes because we don't see it, we don't think that they're there. There's a saying that says out of sight is out of mind. Okay? But in this case, even though they've not even mentioned, there's a tendency to think, well, what is going on here is just between Isaac and Rebekah. But no, Rebekah already has her two children, the twin, Esau and Jacob. And like I said, we will see it as the reading goes on. Verse 6. And Isaac dwelt in Gerar, in the land of the Philistines, of whom the king was Abimelech. And the men of the place asked him of his wife. And he said, She is my sister. I mean, certain people were interested. And they come to him and ask him about the wife, saying, "Oh, who's this lady with you?" And his answer was, "She is my sister." She repeats what his father said in his time as well to Abimelech. For he feared to say, "She is my wife," lest, said he, "the men of the place should kill me for Rebekah," because she was fair to look upon. Rebekah was very beautiful, just as Sarah was. And it came to pass, when he had been there a long time, we don't know how long, just says when he had been there a long time, that Abimelech, king of the Philistines, looked out at a window and saw, and behold, Isaac was sporting with Rebekah, his wife. Now when the Bible says sporting, the term could easily mean whatever the act that was being done between them was something that would not be done normally with a brother and sister. So it's possibly was more a sexual kind of act, not intercourse. No, not that. But it could have been the form in which they were playing. Okay, showed clearly that this could not be the sister. Okay, that this was the wife. And it came to pass, when he had been there a long time, verse 8 again, that Abimelech, king of the Philistines, looked out at a window, and saw, and behold, Isaac was sporting with Rebekah his wife. And Abimelech called Isaac and said, "Behold, of a surety she is thy wife. And how sayest thou, She is my sister?" And Isaac said unto him, "Because I said, Lest I die for her." And Abimelech said, "What is this thou hast done unto us? One of the people might lightly have lain with thy wife, and thou should have brought guiltiness upon us. And Abimelech charged all his people, saying, "He that touches this man or his wife shall surely be put to death." There's so much similarity here between what happens here and what happens in the case of Abraham with Abimelech. In that respect, Abimelech, I'm sure, remembers even here what happened in the case of Abraham. Now, whether Abimelech knows that Isaac is Abraham's son, I don't know. Possibly he does. I don't know. But the reading doesn't really give us much room to suggest that. But it's very possible that he does. Verse 12. Then Isaac sowed in that land as God had commanded him, and received in the same year 100-fold, and the Lord blessed him. And the man waxed great, Isaac did, and went forward, and grew until he became very great. For he had possession of flocks and possession of herds, and great store of servants, and the Philistines envied him. For all the wells which his father's servants had digged in the days of Abraham his father, the Philistines had stopped them, and filled them with earth. And Abimelech said unto Isaac, "Go from us, for thou art much mightier than we." Now remember, Abraham, still in the land of Gerar, had dug wells, and there was a strife between the Philistines and Abraham regarding his wells, and he had told Abimelech, and Abimelech had made a covenant with Abraham. And remember, Abraham had laid forth 7 ewe lambs, I don't know how to pronounce that word, EWE, 7 lambs. And Abimelech had asked him and said, "What are these for?" And Abraham had said, "Well, this is a covenant. It's a witness between me and you, that this well that he had dug belonged to him, Abraham." Okay? So, if it belonged to Abraham, remember, Abraham gave all he had unto Isaac. That means automatically, even that well, however many they were, belonged now to who? Isaac, even in at Abraham's death. Okay, so let's go ahead. And Isaac departed thence. We're going to read that scripture when we get there. And Isaac departed thence, and pitched his tent in the valley of Gerar, and dwelt there. And Isaac digged again the wells of water, which they had digged in the days of Abraham his father, for the Philistines had stopped them after the death of Abraham. So here we see that Abraham is already dead. Okay, because Isaac is opening up the wells again, which his father's servants had dug while his father was still alive. Okay, so clearly at this point of our reading, Abraham is dead. I remember we had talked about it in the previous chapters. At Abraham's death, Esau and Jacob were about 15 years of age. Remember, we had talked about that. Isaac was 75 years of age. We had talked about that. So at this point in time, we don't know how old Esau and Jacob are. We don't know how old Isaac has become. Okay? And we don't know how old Abimelech is, because Abimelech took Abraham's wife. Remember Sarah? So we don't know how, but definitely Abimelech at this point is more elderly. Let's go ahead. And Isaac digged again the wells of water, which they had digged in the days of Abraham his father, for the Philistines had stopped them after the death of Abraham. And he called their names after the names by which his father had called them. Let's go back there. Genesis chapter 21, verse 22. And it came to pass, we're going back, we've already read this, but just a reminder. And it came to pass that time that Abimelech and Phicol, the chief captain of his host, spoke unto Abraham, saying, God is with thee in all that thou doest. Now therefore swear unto me here by God that thou wilt not deal falsely with me, nor with my son, nor with my son's son, but according to the kindness that I have done unto thee, thou shalt do unto me, and to the land wherein thou hast sojourned. And Abraham said, I will swear. And Abraham reproved Abimelech because of a well of water, which Abimelech's servants had violently taken away. And Abimelech said, I did not know who had done this thing, neither did thou tell me, neither yet heard I of it, but today. I'm just hearing that of today. And Abraham took sheep and oxen, and gave them unto Abimelech, and both of them made a covenant. And Abraham set 7 ewe lambs of the flock by themselves. And Abimelech said unto Abraham, What means this thing, this 7 ewe lambs, which thou hast set by themselves? Very important. And he said, Abraham did, For these 7 ewe lambs shalt thou take of my hand, that they may be a witness unto me, that I have digged this well. Wherefore he called the place what? Beersheba. We're going to find out what the word Beersheba means. Alright, the well of the oath. We're going to see that. Because there they swear, both of them. Thus they made a covenant at Beersheba. Remember, Abraham calls it Beersheba. Then Abimelech rose up, and Phicol, the chief captain of his host, and they returned into the land of the Philistines. Let's go back to Genesis chapter 26, verse 28. It says there, and they said, from verse 26, Then Abimelech went to him from Gerar, and, from verse 19. And Isaac's servants digged in the valley, and found there a well of springing water. And the herdmen of Gerar did strive with Isaac's herdsmen, again, just as it did his father, saying, The water is ours. And he called the name of the well Esek, because they strove with him. And they digged another well, and strove for that also. And he called the name of it Sitnah. And he removed from there, he left there, and digged another well. And for that they strove not. And he called the name of it Rehoboth. And he said, For now the Lord had made room for us, and we shall be fruitful in the land. See, where there is water, there is growth. And he went up from thence to Beersheba. Remember where Beersheba is? It's his father Abraham that named it, where he dug the well. The well that he had paid Abimelech for, with 7 ewe lambs, as witnesses that he is the one, Abraham, that dug that well. And the Lord appeared unto him the same night, unto Isaac, and said, I am the God of Abraham thy father. Fear not, for I am with thee, and will bless thee, and multiply thy seed for my servant Abraham's sake. And he built an altar there, and called upon the name of the Lord, and pitched his tent there. And there Isaac's servant digged a well. Then Abimelech went to him from Gerar, and Ahuzath, one of his friends, and Phicol, the chief captain of his army. And Isaac said unto him, Wherefore come ye to me? seeing ye hate me, and have sent me away from you? And they said, We saw certainly that the Lord was with thee. And we said, Let there be now an oath between us, even betwixt us and thee, and let us make a covenant with thee, that thou wilt do us no hurt, as we have not touched thee, and as we have done unto thee nothing but good, and have sent thee away in peace. Thou art now the blessed of the Lord. Which didn't quite seem very true. And he made them a feast, Isaac did, and they did eat and drink. And they rose up betimes in the morning, and sware one to another. And Isaac sent them away, and they departed from him in peace. And it came to pass that same day, that Isaac's servants came and told him concerning the well which they had dug, and said unto him, We have found water. And he called it Sheba. Therefore the name of the city is what? Beersheba, unto this day. And Beersheba means well of seven, or well of the oaths. Remember the 7 ewe lambs that Abraham had given to Abimelech as a witness that he's the one that dug that well. Okay, that's why it's named Beersheba. Okay, or the well of the oath. Speaking of the oath between Abraham and Abimelech. Okay. Verse 34. And Esau is now mentioned, was 40 years old when he took to wife Judith, the daughter of Beeri, and the Hittite, and Beshemath, the daughter of Elon, the Hittite, which were a grief of mind unto Isaac and to Rebekah. Okay. Alright, great. So that was chapter 26. And it was kind of short, but quite interesting. And we'll go on to chapter 27 when next we meet. God bless you all.